But considering the high-profile nature of such case, what is wrong in referring the case to the EFCC that is clearly empowered to investigate such cases?
Well, this is a state, issue, and even though the EFCC or ICPC,
well, it's also a financial criminal allegation.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Even though it is a state, issue, there's nothing stop the state assembly from conducting investigation hearing to establish the genuinity, of this issue, and then at the same time, if there's a political will from the federal government, in its drive on the anti-corruption, they should also, carry out similar investigation.
But how far can the recommendations of an ad hoc panel go in the eye of the law?
First and foremost, we're talking about morality. This is a government that says they want to fight corruption, right? And Kano also appears to be, APC state. So if the recommendation, coming from the state assembly, and possibly if the federal government also, or the political party itself, because the political party can actually also, do its own, investigation and, come up with its own recommendation on how to deal with this matter. So I believe that if we are talking about seriousness on the fight against corruption, if we're talking about, clearing or cleansing governance or misgovernance, in Nigeria, I think the recommendation can go a long way to serve as a deterrent if found guilty.
We would not be begging the question here, because if the ad hoc panel gives this recommendation, it will still need the force of law for it to take effect.
That's why I talk about morality. Where you have morality, where you have ethics, before even things like this happens, people resign. Because if you are under investigation, in so many places where we see, people that takes public, institutions serious and not personalize and, privatize, when you are accused of something, you even step aside and allow an independent body, that is not political, that is not going to, compromise its, work, to carry out investigation pending when, that panel or that investigation is concluded. When you are found guilty, you are good to go. When you are not found guilty, then you return. That shows that the morality is embedded in governance, and that shows that it is not personalized, and that shows that, you are actually probably not guilty of the offense or of the allegation.
So are you suggesting that all public office holders must resign at the face of the slightest or possibly frivolous allegation or unfounded allegation?
Well, if it is unfounded allegation...
So where do you draw the line?
You draw the line, that's why I say when you look at what other countries are doing, if you are genuinely a public officer that is not personalizing and privatizing that public office, and when you are accused of what you are doing and you know clearly that you have done something wrong, even your conscience should actually tell you that, look, let me step aside.
But in this case, in the allegation of Governor Ganduje, I know that a suspect is still deemed innocent until proven guilty. So, are we not stampeding the judicial process?
No. What we have asked, and we maintain our call, is that this should be investigated by experts who could verify the authenticity of those video clips. And if you do that, then you would have done justice to this matter. Don't bring in politics into it, because this is a serious issue. We don't want to, accuse people who have no any, fault. At the same time, if people they know that they have done something wrong, they should surrender themselves, for the law to take its course.
This takes us to the bigger picture, the federal government's anti-corruption war. some people have had cause to criticize this process because some people have claimed that though some alleged looters have been seen hobnobbing with the government of the day. What do you make of such developments?
Well, we acknowledge that there has been some progress in the fight against corruption in Nigeria. We are also disturbed that there are certain individuals that are either under investigation. Some of them, they are actually even in the courts. Some of them, they are being investigated by ICPC and EFCC and even Code of Conduct. And yet, because of 2019 election, we have seen how they have been welcomed by the ruling party and in fact even by the president. So this is really demoralizing not only the anti-corruption activists.
Does this in any way question the integrity of the government of the day?
The truth of the matter is that many Nigerians, are not happy that people you have called looters, people that are facing, trial, you are celebrating that they have joined your party. What Nigerian people would like to see from this government and from the president and the vice president is that those people that have been classified as looters, who has been established that they were actually looters, they should have no business, being seen with the president and vice president and the ruling party, because if you do that, you are actually mortgaging the whole integrity caution, and you are actually going to discourage many Nigerians tomorrow from believing that anybody will come to talk about fight against corruption. Because no matter what these people are, if they are found, involved in corrupt practices, the president, the vice president, the ruling party should distance themselves from them. Because if they don't do that, it means that they will have mortgaged the whole question of integrity and the whole question of not really getting, involved with the people they have called looters in the past. Remember, these people were called looters. Remember, these people were called thieves. Remember, these people were called all sorts of names. So how comes? What has changed? Simply because they have decamped their party. We think this is not really good, for the fight against corruption in Nigeria. I think the government should have sticked and stay away from all these people that have been known to be involved in corruption in Nigeria. If they do that, Nigerians will have respected this government more than the way we have seen now.
Welcome back. Coming up next on Question Time, what happens to Nigeria's recovered loot? We have with us the chairman, Transparency International Nigeria, Mr. Awal Musa Rafsanjani. There is a very disturbing statistics that 70% of this flow in West Africa is from Nigeria.
Will you be surprised with the kind of monumental looting and stealing that is going on at local government, at state, and even at federal level? There has been systematic, looting and stealing and diversion of public funds, by some wicked, unpatriotic public officers in Nigeria. And this is why the figure is not surprising to us. When you look at the amount of resources they have been diverting on daily basis at local government, at state and federal level. So the figures that puts about 70 to 75% of this, illicit financial flow, within the West Africa are coming from Nigeria. It's not surprising.
What do you think is responsible for this? Are the gatekeepers not living up to their role?
There are so many problems attached to it. One, the sanction, and the discipline, is not there. Also, there are people who believe that their own roles and responsibility as public officers, whether elected or appointed, is to steal money and get away with it, and nothing is going to happen to them because of the impunity you have. A lot of public, resources that are meant for infrastructural development have been stolen. They have bastardized our healthcare institution. That's why you see everybody small, headache a public office holder has. They will rush to go abroad.
Do you have evidence to that?
Of course, you've seen the dilapidation, in all the tertiary, institutions. You have seen that, ASU has been permanently on strike, asking that the government must fund education. The government must put infrastructure and make sure that we have required, qualified personnel that will be in the universities. If you go to many secondary schools, the students are just sitting on the ground. There are no competent teachers in many of these places, and the infrastructure has dilapidated. There's no incentives even for the qualified teachers that will be there. So it's not something that new. It is something that is happening.
We've seen that the federal government is also trying and has recorded some milestones in terms of asset recovery or recovery of stolen funds. But what people are saying now is that there is no structure to manage the assets recovered, and that goes into the unpleasant cycle of relooting. Do you think creating a structure for the management of these assets would go a long way?
Absolutely. There's no way we can successfully deal with recovery of assets when you do not have access management framework. It is important that Nigeria gets asset management framework to be able to clearly manage how these assets are going to be dealt with in Nigeria. Otherwise, you would continue to hear allegation of these assets recovered and looted and relooted again. Because right now, as I speak to you, police is recovering, EFCC is recovering, ICPC is recovering, custom is recovering, everybody is recovering. So, and yet there's no central, framework of how this thing should be, managed. Why can't you channel these, resources into a visible area where many Nigerians would see? Because we are lacking in the educational infrastructure, quality of education. A lot of Nigerians have no access to clean water, and this is affecting the health and the well-being of Nigerians. If you invest,
if we go into the allegation of the from the Senate against the social investment program, the allegation is based on politicizing the social investment funds, where the demand for PVC in exchange for such a scheme. Do you think this is a substantial allegation?
As far as we are concerned, we have been monitoring and watching how this process has been. It is very credible. We are not saying that, in the process there might not be one problem or the other, but compared to other programs that Nigerian government has done in the past and even currently, this is a process that I think we should actually be proud of.
Okay, now let's keep an eye on the political space now. What do you make of the crisis coming from the primaries? Almost all the parties are almost torn apart as a fallout from this post-primaries crisis. What does that say about the chances of the country having a credible election come 2019 elections?
We're already in trouble because judging from the party's primary so far, virtually every party is complaining about how their members have been shortchanged. A lot of people who have who have purchased their form, they have been ambushed by their respective political parties across the country. And we think this is not really democracy. It doesn't allow people to make their own choice. And therefore, what you have are people who have, in most instances, buy their way into the primaries. And invariably, across the parties, you are going to have a combination of, elected officials that were not actually really having public support.
One thing that is obvious in the process of these primaries is the low emergence of women. What does this say about the quality of the politics being played and the chances given to women? What does it also say about the global quest for 35% affirmative action for women?
We are going from bad to worse, unfortunately. And we thought that, with the commitments that both political parties had made, they would have, create an enabling space for women to compete, because there are so many competent, qualified women who can actually, if they are allowed, who they also have public support, that they could emerge. But unfortunately, they have been ambushed, and that is not really good. And therefore, from all indication, the 2019 general election, either at the state or at the national level, especially at the legislature level, you're not going to have the number that we are hoping to have for women. I think this is a very, very sad development.
We've seen an unending cycle of violence with few months to the elections. Would that not undermine the election process?
It's a huge threat, not only to the election, but the whole corporate existence of this country. Nigerians have suffered enough of this violence. Unfortunately, those who are perpetrating, those who are turned this into entrepreneur, they will not let ordinary Nigerian have, peaceful life, simply because of their self-centered interests.
Would you say the government is doing enough to stop this violence?
I want to believe that, with 777 local governments, with 36 states and Abuja, federal capital, I don't think if efforts are being put together, depoliticizing this violence, misusing the young people, to do political, to engage in political violence, if there is a sincerity from government across local government, state and federal, I want to believe that we would have been able to deal with this issue.
In 30 seconds, because of our time, do you think that we can have a violent-free and fair and also credible elections come 2019 general elections?
It is possible to have free and fair and free violence election if there is no conscious and determination by politicians, including the ruling party, to deny Nigerians the opportunity to really elect their respective candidates.
The chairman of Transparency International Nigeria and the executive director CISLAC, Mr. Awal Musa Rafsanjani, thank you so much for making our time to be part of this episode of Question Time. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you very much.
And that'll be all on this episode of Question Time from Channels TV's Global Headquarters, Lagos. You can send us a comment on our social media platforms showing right on your screen. Join us next week on a fresh episode of the show. Many thanks for watching. I'm Benga Ashiru. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to Question Time from Channels TV's Global Headquarters, Lagos. I'm Benga Ashiru. What do we make of the scary statistics of Nigeria's Corruption Perception Index, which places Nigeria at number 148 in the world, with a performance score sheet of 27%? While the federal government insists it's doing its best to fight corruption, Transparency International frowns at what it describes as federal government's hobnobbing with alleged looters. Transparency International also scores Nigeria low on its asset recovery program. According to the international watchdog, it says the asset recovery program has no management framework to ensure recovered funds are not relooted. Our guest on today's episode of the show is the chairman of Transparency International and the executive director of Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC, Mr. Awal Musa Rafsanjani. He joins us on the show.
It's very disappointing that The only state in the Federation that has an anti-corruption agency is now being threatened by this kind of kangaroo, court ruling. We think it is a calculated...
Why do you call it a kangaroo court ruling?
Yeah, because it is not done in the public interest. Any ruling that is not done in a public interest, any ruling that is not meant to stop corruption, any ruling that is meant to give room for corrupt people to have their way, as far as we are concerned, is not in the best interest of the public and the country and the people, of the state. And therefore, as far as we are concerned, that ruling, is not, a ruling that we should take it seriously, or we should just joke with. We have to do something to ensure that a necessary appeal and stay of execution is actually done. For us, it's
But what does the law say? Because if there is no provision for the State Anti-Corruption Commission to investigate cases as such, it would not be out of order for the court to give such ruling, because the court is only bound by law to give its ruling.
Very interesting. The actually law establishing Kano State Anti-Corruption, Commission and Public Complaint, established in 2008 as amended, clearly, in its function, stated that they can actually investigate, they can actually, arrest, and for you to say that the investigation department and the police attached to it be disbanded, I think, it is really rather unfortunate, because the law is very clear that, they can actually investigate and they can actually, have a department, which is manned by actually competent police officers.
How independent is the Kano Anti-Corruption Commission?
The law clearly, gives it independence, and what we are seeing now is a zero threat to the fight against corruption, because being the only state in the Federation that has a replicate of anti-corruption agency in the country, like a EFCC or ICPEC, is being threatened. Secondly, the commission, under its leadership, is co-chairing the open government partnership, in Kano.
But don't you think the whole structure of a state having its anti-corruption commission, where the chairman or the head of the commission is being appointed by the governor of the state, don't you think it runs contrary to the law of common sense?
Well, the law establishing, the state, independent, or rather anti-corruption, in Kano, states how the leadership of that commission should be. So it is not even the contestation about the leadership of the commission. It is a calculated attempt by some people who have been investigated or who are under investigation, that they have actually found their way to make sure that they get injection that will paralyze the activities of the commission. And as far as we are concerned, as an anti-corruption activist, as an anti-corruption organization that is supporting public, institutions that are serious about minimizing corruption, we are actually supporting this commission to ensure that its independence, its autonomy, its effectiveness is actually done, because people in Kano are happy with that commission. A lot of extortion, a lot of injustice is done to many people. When they go to that commission, they get, justice there. They get relief. So that is why we thought, whatever the court or the judge should do, it should look at the public interest, not the interest of some few individuals who are under investigation, who have gone to seek for injunction to stop and paralyze the activities of the commission.
We can't talk about this development in Kano without making reference to the bribery allegation against the governor of Kano State. When you look at the ruling, the court ruling restraining the ad hoc panel of investigation set up by the Kano Assembly, what do you make of such ruling?
I don't think this ruling, should actually stay, because the State Assembly clearly has the power to investigate, to conduct public hearing, investigative hearing, and there's nothing, under our constitution that shows that they cannot do that. So as far as I'm concerned, that ruling cannot actually go anywhere.
Does that not undermine the immunity clause of the governor?
No, immunity, is about, prosecuting a sitting president or a sitting governor or vice president or deputy governor. It doesn't stop, investigating an allegation against the president or vice president or governor or deputy governor. The immunity does not cover that they should do whatever they want to do without being investigated. They can be investigated, and after their tenure, if they are confirmed to be guilty, they can be prosecuted. So if the court is saying that the State Assembly has no power to do that, I think, it's really it's something that's, really not within the compound of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that allows or that gives the State Assembly the powers to conduct public hearing, investigative hearing, and I don't think the State Assembly would take that ruling.